Baruch Ata Adonai. Baruch Abba Yerushalayim. Baruch Ata Adonai.
Aloha and Shalom. I'm making this video to show a wonderful site that I found called the Ancient Hebrew Research Center, made by Jeff Brenner. He has made some intriguing videos taking the modern Hebrew back to its roots, back to its Paleo-Hebrew Canaanite script, or pictographs, which are known as hieroglyphics. So I subbed his channel and I left a few comments, and he had to delete my comments off his page because they were a little off taste according to his viewers, because I was talking about a sexual nature, because I was talking about the Bible. But Jeff was kind enough to write to me and explain that my subject matter was controversial and that he did agree with some of what I was saying, and he did not agree with some of the other things I was saying. So I wrote a blog about my etymology at truthiracy.blogspot.com, explaining my viewpoints and my reasoning for my etymology on the word ang. So then Jeff wrote back saying, I checked your website, very interesting, I think I understand things a little better. And then Jeff stated that there is a big difference between regular etymologies and my esoteric etymologies. So you're talking about the authorized etymologies of the elite or the elites. And the ones who are in power are the ones who control and say what truth is. So Jeff, you were correct. There is a huge difference between regular etymologies and esoteric, which are hidden etymologies, which actually means the truth. So allow me, Jeff, to take you on a hidden, secret, esoteric journey of truth. And Jeff, I hope you enjoy the log ride of logic. Welcome to Truthiracy, the house of wisdom. And you seem like a strong, smart guy, so I think you will be able to stand under my wisdom so that you may be able to understand it. You see, then it would be understandable to you, which is respectable when you respect a bull, and you honor the bull, which is honorable. So it's my contention and thesis that ang comes from the Angus bull. And this is the same ang of the bull that you will find in the angel, which is the ang of El. And El is the bull god of the Bible. You see, you have no idea why Red Bull gives you wings, and why Michael Jordan is the red-winged bull flying through the air. And when you watched The Last Airbender, you had no idea at all why his name was Aang, and why he rode around on the bull. And honestly, no one knows why an angel is like an angle. So you can look up and research the etymology, but you're not going to find the truth. So your Oxford Dictionary only holds part of the story. So let's take a theological, philosophical look at the bull god. Knowledge and wisdom are like a donut. The donut is actually a hidden secret symbol among the masses. Why do you think the donut is shaped like that, round, with a hole cut out of the middle? Because it represents the wheel of life, or the Ouroboros. You see, the donut is the symbol of the wreath, and the wreath is the symbol of the zodiac. And the exterior, or the outside shell of the donut, is what the masses consume and eat. This is known as exoteric wisdom, which is understandable to the masses, which is the XO, or the ox of the bull, the backwards or opposite external exoskeleton. You see, very few consume the inner whole of the donut, which is disregarded or discarded from the masses. The outer shell of the donut is the macrocosm, and the inner donut hole is the microcosm, which is the hidden or the esoteric wisdom, which means belonging to the inner circle, which is hidden wisdom and understandable to very few. So now you might be able to cap a bull, which is capable of understanding the symbol of the bull, because the shape of the donut is the symbolic representation of the bull, and that's exactly why it is called a torus, which comes from the Taurus bull. So now you're starting to understand the hidden dualistic complexities of the torus, which is the esoteric and the exoteric, which means the eso, the inner, and the exo, the outer, or the in and the out. The flow of the energy going in and out, repeating over and over, the ice and the fire, which is a form of sex magic. So the true etymology of the word esoteric has to do with the blue ice of the goddess and the red hot fire of the red bull, like the goddess Isis and the bull god Osiris. So the authorized etymology tries to tell you that the Taurus is not even related, and do not be confused with Taurus, the bull, which is, pardon my French, bullshit. I mean, they even have what's called a horned Taurus, which looks like this. And the Taurus bull gives us the toro, the red hot fire Spanish fighting bull, which gives us the torch, the red hot fire fertility of the bull. And the Taurus bull gives us the Torah, which is in the Bible, which has the story of the gene of Isis, or the Genesis. And the ox gives us the X and the O, which is the male and the female, as in sex, like the Exodus, which is the sex of two, or the sex of deuce. And that's why the story of Moses begins with the fertility of the bulrushes. And this triple X sex story is rated X, and you should check out my video explanation of the true story of Moses. And we use the X and the O when we're signing letters saying hugs and kisses, and then we use XOXO, meaning lots of hugs and kisses. And Europe was discovered by the abduction of Europa by the bull god Zeus. Thus the symbolic O and the ox. And of course Paris is known as the land of love and romance. And that's exactly why Paris Hilton is known as the land of love and romance. And that's why the oxygen channel, or the woman's channel of the O, has the story of Paris in her pink little car, complete with hugs and kisses, or the X and the O's. And we all know what the big O stands for. And the apple is the wisdom of the forbidden fruit of sex magic. And that's why the forbidden knowledge of the computer holds the sex magic of the male and the female, or the ones and the zeros. The scientific sex magic of numbers, or numerology. You see, most people think that the 1 comes first, but actually it comes from the 0. The 0 is actually first before the 1, because it represents the primordial abyss of the goddess, the whole, the sacred 0. And now you know why Warner Brothers shows the sacred whole of the goddess in the beginning. And the 1 male and the 0 female continue to give birth. That's exactly why the 10 is really just the 1 and the 0 all over again. And now I will back my esoteric theology from another angle, or another angle. When we take a look at the circle, or the cirque of L, which is the circle of the goddess and L, we see that the mid L is located in the very center, which is the sin of the moon and the Taurus bull. And in this case, it's a horse, which is exactly like the bull, which is found at the center of the labyrinth, which is the labyrinth of the female goddess, which is exactly where you're going to find the moon fertility of the bull, the minotaur, which of course is found in the mid-L, or the center of the labyrinth. So finally, now you'll understand why it's called the bull's eye. And that's exactly why at the center or the middle of the Vatican you will find the penis of the bull inserted into the female, because the Vatican is known as the Mother Circle, or the Mother Church. And the ancient Egyptian obelisk is not formed after the human penis, but the bull penis, and that's exactly why it's called the obelisk. And El's son is Baal, and Bel means the white light of the sun. And that's why the obelisk is also known as the sundial, or the sundial, which dies on the annual cycle, or the recycle, which is the life, death, and rebirth of God's Son. And that's why the cross is the symbol of God, because God is the bull, the symbol of God, which is the cross that comes from the zodiac wheel. And since Saturn L is the god of the zodiac, the cross is his symbol, and that's exactly why the sigil, or the symbol of Saturn, has the cross on it, along with his phallic symbol, or sickle, the snake, the serpent. The recycling of the Ouroboros, or the serpent eating its tail. And that's exactly why the sun begins with the serpent letter S, plus on, which comes from ancient Greece. And now you know why we turn our lights on. And at the end of the cycle, or at the end of the year, the sun figuratively dies. Which is why the story of the sun god is sacrificed. And this is exactly why those who worship God's Son worship him on Sun's Day, which is at the end of the week, the seventh day, the day of sacrifice. And you'll notice that the moon's day, or Monday, is the first day of the week, so both the sun and the moon begin and end our week. And our 1 month is based on the moon, as most calendars of the world are based upon counting the lunar months within one solar year. Before the patriarchal worship of the sun, we had the matriarchal worship of the goddess, or the moon. And monotheism is the worship of one god, or the first god, which is the monotheistic moon. And of course, the queen of the heavens, or the queen of the night sky, gives us our monarchy, which is the moon arch, the one rule. So we know the ancient Hebrews were from the city of in Mesopotamia, where they worshipped the moon god, which was known as Nana. And now you'll know why Rihanna gives the horn sign and sings to Nana.
Oh Nana, what's my name? 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 What's my name? What's my name?
Yeah, I heard you good with them soft lips. Yeah, you.
So you notice Rihanna is singing to Nana, the moon, and then she goes back to the store where the milk is located, and she grabs the milk and she drops it on the floor, and it spills out a sexual representation of the milk goddess, or the bull cow goddess.
Jam to finish, girl. The things that we could do in 20 minutes, girl. Say my name, wear it out. It's getting hot, crack a window, air it out. I could get you.
And that's why she's dressed like the ancient cow goddess. So we know that the ancient Sumerians built temples to the moon god known as ziggurats. They were 7 levels high, and the highest level was the moon. And of course, the base was Black Saturn. Thus, the temple was known as the White Temple, because it was dedicated to the moon. And the ancient Hebrew Semitic word for the moon, as well as the Egyptian word for the moon, was Yah, giving us the modern Hebrew name of the god Yahweh, or the moon god.
The Hebrew word behind the word Lord, when it is written in all uppercase letters, is 4 Hebrew letters, Yod, He, Vav, and He, and is most often pronounced as Yahweh. Because all Hebrew names are Hebrew words with meaning, the focus on Yahweh should not be its pronunciation but its meaning, as a Hebrew name reflects the character of the individual. This name includes the verb hava, meaning to exist, and the letter Yod as a prefix, which means he. He exists. In the ancient Hebrew mind, only that which can be seen or experienced actually exists. Everything else doesn't exist. This is in contrast to the Greek mind, which theorizes and attempts to find and explain that which cannot be experienced. When Yahweh was sending Moses back to Egypt, Moses said, "If I come to the people of Israel and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is his name?' what shall I say to them?" From the Israelites' perspective, Yahweh did not exist, as they had never seen or experienced him. So Yahweh told Moses, "Ehya asher ehya," which can be translated as, "I am the one who exists, because I am the existing one." As I am the one who exists, because I am the existing one. This name includes the verb hava, meaning to exist, and the letter Yod as a prefix, which means he. He exists. He exists.
So Jeff, everything you explain about the ancient Hebrew concepts or theologies and philosophies are that they believe in concrete concepts, not abstract concepts.
In the ancient Hebrew mind, only that which can be seen or experienced actually exists.
When actually Yahweh appeared, supposedly, to many of the characters of the Bible. An abstract is fake and not real, and this is exactly why the Hebrew Israelites worshipped that which is real, which is the moon. Wisdom of the heavens or the gods comes from the nighttime, not the daytime when the sun blocks out God's heavens. So the ancient astronomers had to wait for the sun to set before they could gain wisdom of the heavens, the stars, the moon, and the planets. And since ancient times of the Mesopotamia area, the ancient Assyrians, the Akkadians, the Chaldeans all worshipped the moon, the queen of the heavens. Just as the Tower of Babel was built to try to reach the moon god, Sin. And that's why all Jewish holidays fall on moon dates. And of course, we go on a date when the moon is out, because when the sun is out, we would never think about having sex during the daylight hours in front of everyone. But when the sun sets, we become romantic because the sun is going away and the moon is gonna come out, which is the romantic moon of sin. And that's why they say that it's a sin to have sex, because it happens during the moon time, or the dark time, the time of blackness, like the black cave or a black dark forest. It represents scariness and evilness, the darkness of blackness. And the evil dark nighttime is the eve of El. So obviously the darkness is considered evilness because it's the blackness, the unknown, like the death goddess, or let's say Darth Vader, who is black, and when you get a black belt, you are now deadly. And people today are still very afraid of the evil black darkness, like our closets. Most people won't sleep with their closet door open. Just like when you were a child, you were very afraid what was under your bed. It might be a monster, but a monster is just the moon star. Exactly like a demon, which is just the deity of the moon. And that is exactly why the Bible has the struggle between Jesus and sin, or Satan, which is actually just the struggle between the sunlight and the moon, which is nighttime and daytime, or winter and summer. Why do you think the Bible has the story of Genesis, or the gene of Isis in the Torah, or the Tanakh? And no, the Tanakh does not come from the Tanakh at all. So the true etymology of the word Tanakh comes from the ancient symbol of the bull, which is the ankh, the thoracic vertebrae of the bull. It's the cross-section of the bull spine, which was used as a symbol for the ancient Egyptian gods like Isis, or the moon bull god Osiris. So we know the ancient Egyptians worshipped the sacred cow, bull goddess. You see, because they understood a bull. And they hold the other symbol of the bull, which is the symbol of the staff, which comes from the sacred bull. It is the was, or the bull penis. And the bull penis is known as the ox god, or the ox god. And of course the bull penis, or the ox god, gives us our letter L, or the lamd. And that's why the letter L, or the 1, comes from the bull penis. The ancient Sumerian god Enlil was the lord of the air, the bull of the heavens. Enlil fathered the moon god Nana, who wore the crown of the horn bull moon crescent. And the horns of Nana give us our word banana, which is in the shape of the horns, or the slice of the moon. And of course, the banana is phallic in nature, with the peeling of its skin.
Oh na na, what's my name? Oh na na, what's my name? Oh na na, what's my name? What's my name? What's my name?
Yeah, I heard you good with them soft lips.
I really wanna be with you, was it just my type? Oh na 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 na.
So later I'm going to explain how the fertility of the male moon god Nana came from the ancient goddess of Nana, or An, which was also known as Anu. So the king ruler god Enlil was known as the lord of the air, and that's exactly why the Illuminati have the symbol of the air, which is actually the symbol of the A, which is the first, the one, the Aleph, which is also known as the Alpha, as in the alpha male. And you'll notice that the Hebrew Aleph looks like the X, which is the ox, which comes from the ancient Paleo-Hebrew ox, or the bull, the A, the Aleph. So yes, our modern-day A comes from the ox, or the bull, or the god Enlil, who was the god of the air, which is the same exact symbol of the bull god Enlil, or El. And like the 11 Sephiro, or the 22 pathways of the Kabbalah, we have the 22 pathways, or the 22 symbols of the Hebrew alphabet, with the 2 sections of 11, or El even. And you'll notice that the next 11 group of numbers begins with the letter L, or the lambda, which is the god El, and that's why it's the number 12. The Lord, or the God of the 12 hours of time, and the 12 months, or the 12 moons in a year. And the Hebrew El, or the Lamd, is the ox god, which is the penis of the bull god El, and that's why the same symbol of the El in Hebrew is the same exact symbol of Saturn. And the fertility worship of Saturn came from the ancient fertility cults of the moon. Thus the relationship with the cow, or the bull, and the moon. So you'll notice that the starting points of both sides of the 11 start with the bull god El, or the ox. So we see the word for God is El, which is the Hebrew letter Aleph and the Lamd, or the A and the L, which is another angle of truth that El is the bull god. So we know the ancient Hebrew Bible is the ancient Bible of Cana, Phoenicia, where the Bible comes from, or where it takes its name from, which is the city of Byblos. And Byblos means the 2 bulls. And we know the god that created Byblos, or Jabel, is named Cronus, which is Saturnel. And Saturnel is the child killer, and that's exactly why the Bible's God has the child killer. Just like the old child-killing crone, the witch. And the primordial god himself, Ptah, the bull, carried the symbol of the bull, which was the sacrum of the bull spine, the djed. So our modern-day language or alphabet comes from many ancient cultures, like the Latin, the Greek, and even the Germanic languages. But we get our 26 letters, the 13 plus the 13, which is actually the 22 plus the 5 vowels, from the ancient Hebrew language, which actually comes from the ancient Cana-Phoenicia language. Because almost all modern-day languages come from the ancient Cana-Phoenician language, or the Semitic languages. And obviously, Phoenicia gives us our phonetic sounds. And this is exactly why we have our language, which is the Ang age, which comes from the Angus bull, or the cow. And if you know the true etymology of the word England, you would know that it comes from the Angland, or Angela, the Angles, which is the English. So yes, it is the English bull language. And you'll notice in the Greek alphabet that the A and the L are both the same, because it's the fire fertility of the bull penis. The A symbol is the symbol of the air. So now you understand why the symbol is called the triangle, or the tri-ang of L. And this is why the red hot fire male triangle combines with the water of the female triangle, which is known as sex, or six in Latin. Thus, the Star of David is actually the Star of Divide, or the Star of Coming Together, uniting as one. And remember, Saturn is the chaos planet of fertility, and that's exactly why it is the 6th day, or the sex day. The 6th planet and the 6th day, which is Saturday, the day of chaos, the day that we all go crazy, drink and party, and try to find a sex partner to have sex with. And of course, humans and beasts were created on the 6th day. So most people don't realize that the week begins on Monday, or the moon's day, not on the Hebrew Saturn's day. You see, that's why Saturday and Sunday are considered the weekend. So let me explain to you about the weekend and the symbol of Saturn and the sun. And the star of Saturn, or the sexagram, is only showing you half of the picture, because there is negative and positive, both 6 plus the 6, which is the 12, L. You see, the 6 and the 7 are exactly like the 12 and the 13. You know, at the end of the year when we celebrate God, old Saturnel, when we ritualistically celebrate the sacrifice of God's son, which is actually just the winter solstice, the death and the rebirth of the annual sun. And the microcosm of this ritual is Saturday and Sunday, or the 6 and the 7. So the hexagram does have 6 points, but the center point, or the mid-L point, is where the sun is, just like on an astrological chart. And that's exactly why you'll see Jesus placed in the center of the star, because that is his day, Sun's day, or the 7th day. And that's exactly why on the 7th day of the week, Sunday, you will pray and worship the sun god, Jesus. And that's why the symbol also holds the secrets of 13, which is also the symbol of Jesus. So the seal of Solomon is actually the seal of Saturn, which is the seal of sex, and that's why Solomon means the sun and the moon, or the male and the female. And sex magic is behind our alphabet, which is the male alpha and the female beta. Just like the ancient Paleo-Canaanite alphabet, you'll notice the first 2 houses are the male, red, and then the next 2 houses are the blue, female. And if you look at the female reproductive system, you'll notice that it looks like a bull, which is another reason that you find the bull or the minotaur in the center or the mid-L of the labyrinth of the female, which is known as the Leviathan in the Bible. Again, a story with the... So now you'll understand why we say holy cow. You see, this is an angel or an Ang of El, and that's why it has the halo or the ring of Saturn around it. And I'll explain more of the Ang of El a little later. Now please, I hope you're not getting angry with me, you know, angry like the bull, because I do understand that learning esoteric wisdom can be torturous. You know, torture the Taurus bull, which is absolutely terrible, or the terror of the bull. And I'm sure that most people will find this unbelievable and perhaps even questionable. And some think that my etymologies are irresponsible or perhaps troubled, which is absolutely inconceivable, because you see, if you were a reasonable person, you could reason with a bull, which would make you tolerable or able to tolerate a bull. You see, most people automatically deny a bull or are deniable. You see, most people aren't willing to accept a bull or be acceptable. And that's exactly why most people don't know where the edge of the ledge is, and they do not have knowledge, and that's why they are not knowledgeable. You see, you can be forcible, but you cannot force a bull to learn wisdom. You see, the power of wisdom makes you formidable, and at the same time gives you the power to be lovable. Just imagine a bull which is unimaginable. So don't think that I cannot prove a bull, because all of this is provable. So I could go on and on with thousands of examples, but it boils down to the fact that the suffix of BLE means the bull, and that is exactly why we say bull and not blee or the BLE. It's actually the bull. And we add able or the BLE to a word to make it more powerful, to give it strength or boldness. And the bull also gives us bold letters, just like the big bully. And that's exactly where we get the word bully, is from the bull, which is why we have big bulldozers. And this is exactly why we have a big angry boss, which is a boss, which is the bull. So the Jewish Hebrew faith worships their god on Saturn's Day, which is Saturday, which begins at around 6 p.m. when the sun sets and the moon rises. So keep in mind that we're talking about 6 p.m. and sunset on Friday, which is Frigga's Day, the goddess day of Venus. And our day begins at midnight when the moon is at its most high. So Jewish Hebrew Israelites worship when the moon comes out on Saturn's Day. And the bull god Saturnel is also associated with the moon with the bull horns. And that's why the horns of the moon and the horns of the bull are both phallic fertility symbols, coming from the primordial beast of the horned god. And that is exactly why today that we say that we are feeling horny. And that's why this symbol has always been the symbol of fertility. And the ancient sacred moon is the true etymology of the word Jericho, which comes from the Bible. It actually means the Yah moon. And if you've watched this entire video, you would know and recognize this symbol. So like I said, this is a sexual representation of the sex act, the male entering the female, like putting your finger through a hole. And we know that this symbol is the bull's eye, but also it's a top view of Saturn L, the bull. And we already know that it's called the bullseye or the center, but it's also called the target, which is why Target takes its name from the Taurus bull. So let's jump back to the Holy Bible, which is just more of the same bull, or the same symbols. So, we already know about the sexual fertility story of Moses, or Musa, and understanding the true sex seduce, as well as why Moses led his people to the land of milk and honey, which of course is located at the mountain of the moon, Mount Sinai, the mountain of romance or sexual union. And once again, where we find the golden calf or the bull. And there are many ancient artifacts proving the worship of sin, as well as the worship of the bull. And there are many depictions of the bull in ancient cave paintings going back to the ancient Paleolithic period. In the ancient Ugaritic Neolithic text, we find the bull worship continues, where we find that El is listed amongst the Most High, the top of all the gods, the God Eternal, the Toru bull god El. And so we see the bull is worshipped all around the world, from ancient Mesopotamia, Egypt, and even Greece. Even King Solomon worshipped the bull god Baal. And we know that the ancient Canaanite and Phoenicians worshipped Moloch or Baal. So basically you'll find the bull worship throughout the Levant. And the worship of the winged bull can be seen in Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian art. And of course, the elite are still worshipping the winged bull to this very day. And that's exactly why the Illuminati wants you to drink the bull's blood, which comes from the Canaanite can of fertility. Drinking the red blood from the Bible, or the Biblos, which is the two bulls. The sacrifice of the golden sun in the bull god Jesus, and drinking his blood, the sex magic of the 101. So now you know the real reason why Red Bull gives you wings. And remember that Nana is the son of Enlil, who is known as the moon god Sin. He was depicted as riding the horns of the moon, or the horns of the bull. And Bali is named after Baal, the bull bell. Notice the bull headdress during the festival of these young maidens. And they carry the golden white bull through the parade to be sacrificed. And we see the Hindu goddess Shiva with the symbol of the serpent, the moon, and the bull. The cow bull goddess known as Nandi. And of course, Nandi is the beast bull that Shiva rides, exactly like Europa, who rides the bull god Zeus. Just like the biblical great whore of Babylon with her cup of fornication, and she rides the beast. And now to the Muslim, Arabic, Islamic Quran. Now normally I don't like to pick on the Islamic Muslim faith because they are just patsies being blamed for 9/11. And of course the Illuminati killed the big bad boogeyman on May 1st, the day of the Illuminati. Captured and killed by Baal himself, the Canaanite candidate himself, President Obama. And this evil trickster fools everyone by saying that he is a Christian. But of course he's an Elite and a Zionist for Israel, but was caught admitting that he is actually a Muslim. Now I have many Arabs and Islamic Muslims who say that I cannot find any symbolism in their faith or religion. So I have already proven much of the Islamic Muslim symbolism But let's skip that for now and jump straight to the Prophet Muhammad. You see, Muslims believe that the Quran was revealed through the angel Gabriel from God himself to Muhammad. You see, everyone misses the esoteric wisdom here. Why do you think God sent the archangel Gabriel? Because Gabriel is one of the 7 archangels of the Ark of the Moon, and that's why Gabriel is the angel of Moon's Day or Monday. And the Prophet Muhammad was born on a Moon's Day, which is a Monday. And would you believe that he was born on April 20th, 420, which is actually the first day of the Taurus bull? And of course, 42 is the magic sum of the magic cube of Saturn. And believe it or not, the Prophet Muhammad actually died on a Moon's Day or a Monday. So the Prophet Muhammad was born on a Moon's Day and died on a Moon's Day, Monday, combined with the moon angel of Monday, Gabriel. And of course, the angel Gabriel is the one that told Mary that Jesus will be born. The Prophet Muhammad was a nomadic shepherd, an orphan who ascended to heaven. And of course, Jesus was a nomadic shepherd, an orphan who ascended to heaven. And how did the great Muhammad ascend to heaven? He ascended to heaven on the back of the beast, the horse or the bull, the Borak. And of course, they took the night journey when the moon comes out, heading towards El Aqsa, the farthest mosque. So we know that Allah is the exact same God as El of the Bible, which is exactly why you'll find the bull horns or the crescent of the moon in Islamic culture. And the mythical steed of Muhammad was actually a bull, not a horse, even though both of them are known as ungulates, the hoofed animal. You see, Al-Barak is El Bull of Uruk, the city of Sumer or Babylonia. The Borak or the Bull of Uruk, because this is where they worshipped the ancient bull. And yes, Iraq does come from the ancient city of Uruk. So now you know why they call it the Fertile Crescent, because they're talking about the crescent fertility of the bullhorns of the moon. And that's why the ancient city of the moon, or the ancient city of Jericho in the Bible, was in the shape of the crescent moon. So in mythology, the horse came after the bull, just as the baby little Horus came from the bull gods Osiris and Isis, the mother cow goddess. And the ancient Egyptians said that their sun god Ra, or Horus, took steps across the sky. And the ancient bull penis of Ra, or the obelisk, is how the ancient Egyptians told time, the sundial, or the sundial, which is where our hour, or our Horus, comes from. And by the way, we get our word clock from the Celtic word cloca, meaning the bell, or Baal. And you can believe me on that one. And now you know exactly why the word clock is a cognate of the word cock. And the hour is the hora, or the Horus, which is the circle dance of time. And that's exactly why the Jews have the ancient Hebrew dance of the circle dance called the hora. And when you complete something or you finish it, like a game, when you win a game, you say hooray or hoorah. And that's exactly why you do the victory dance or the hurrah dance. And that's exactly why the military says hoorah or hoo-yah. And of course, the hurrah dance consists of 3 couples. or like the three Horai, or the three Horus, the three goddesses of prophecy and time. Like the triple goddess of witchcraft, and why the witches always form the sacred circle, or the circle dance. Or the sacred fire dance of Bel, or Beltane. Which is why they dance around in the sacred circle around the sacred pole. Entering the trance of the dance of romance. The esoteric flow of the inner circle, or the tunnel of love, the rabbit hole. The primordial abyss of the tunnel of the goddess, like her birth canal. So now you'll understand the true symbolism behind the logo and the company of Chanel, which is actually the channel, the Chanel, which is known as the Vesica Piscis, the woman or the goddess channel, or her birth canal, which is the exact same symbolism that you will find at churches and, of course, with Jesus. And of course, where the black time cube is where you will find the black hole of the goddess. So now you'll understand this commercial by Chanel. So again, I'll explain. First of all, we have the light fertility of Bel on the head of the train, which is a phallic symbol, and then we see the symbol of the bull, which is the bullseye. Did you catch the sex magic fertility of the train going through the hole of the Vesica Piscis, or the female tunnel of the goddess? Did you catch the Istanbul? The subliminal sex magic of the Illuminati.
I love you.
Chanel, number 5.
And of course, the number 5 is the 5th day of the week, Friday, the day of the goddess of love, Venus. And when you try to change the channel of your television set, in order to get the energy flow of the programming, you need cable. Which is why the Cabal owns cable in the Eye of Ra, or Horus. And the Taurus, or the toroid, also gives us our spiral, or our spirachel, which also gives us our twirl, which is exactly why we call our twisters a tornado, which is why the toroid shape of the tornado is named after the Taurus bull, which is also known as a funnel, which is where we get our turbine. And of course, the turbine comes from the Taurus bull, which is a form of electricity. And now you know where the powerful burst of energy comes from in a turbo, which is from the Taurus bull. So obviously now you understand that the word turn comes from the Taurus bull, the toroid of the spinning Taurus. And did you know that when you shoot a bullet down a gun barrel, it spins in the toroid shape of the spinning circle? And of course, the phallic bullet comes from the fertility of the bull, which is why it is shaped like the obelisk. And also, lead is the metal of Saturn L. And the outer casing of a bullet is known as the shell, which comes from the female. And so now you know the secret behind the shell of the goddess Venus and her shell. And remember that the planet Venus is the ruler of Saturn. So we see the connection with Venus and the fertility horns of the moon. And we find the fertility horn of the moon in the ancient depiction of the Venus of La Selle, which is around 25,000 years old. So like I said, the ancient worship of the fertility of the goddess was always before the male. And when we go to a circus, it's because of the sacred circle, which is why at a circus you will find the circling or the spiral of L.
Treasure chest on one of these, so if you get one of these, you may win the treasure chest of toys. You have 30 seconds to spin it around. Whatever you get, you'll get. And if you get a treasure chest, either the picture or a word that says treasure chest, you go home with every toy today. Okay, Larry? Good luck to you. Give the magic bonanza wheel a spin. Oh, sure.
Okay, let me just show you how it works here. I'll start here. Like that.
Wowee, Kazowie! That's not only drawn me in, I'm getting a little bamboozled watching it. Oh, no.
So you see, the circus or the circle is the representation of the zodiac. And that's exactly why you'll find the animals at the circus, because the zodiac means the animal wheel. And the sacred circle of the goddess is the sacred symbolism and meaning behind the word church, which comes from the ancient goddess of magic and witchcraft, the goddess Circe. And you'll notice the symbolism of the circle behind her, which is the cirque of L. And the circle or the hour or the Horus also gives us our word whole, as in completion. And also our word whole or the ho-el, which is exactly where we get our word whore from, the big black dark hole, which is why they call them a hoe, from the big hole. And when you're looking for a hoe, all you need to do is find a hotel, or perhaps a motel. The whorehouse is known as the most ancient profession in the world. It traces its roots back to the ancient homes known as bordellos, which were Sumerian homes built in Uruk, built to house prostitution. They were known as brothels, or the sex whorehouse of El, the broth or the Beth of El, which is the house of El, which is exactly why Bethlehem is the house of God. So now you'll understand why they tell us that the world was created by a big bang, and the theory of the black hole, which is all about sex magic. So the cow goddess gave birth to the universe, which is actually the uterus, which is the female bull that creates life. And this is exactly why that the bull is behind the creator, because the creator is the Taurus bull. So now you see that even our very word creator has the Taurus bull in it, the creation of the Milky Way. And the very word create or creation actually comes from the creation of the crescent of the moon. And we find the ancient lunar cow goddess or the moon worship on the ancient island of Crete. And the bull worship of the Minoan ancient civilization gives us the Cretan bull. And believe me, you're not going to find this information on a bulletin. You see, truth is like a golden coin. There are two sides to the story. The obverse, which is the obvious, and the reverse, which is the hidden. You see, this is why we have a double-sided coin. And this is exactly why it's called a coin, or a co-in, the couple into. And now you know why they call it heads or tails, which is just a form of sex magic. And this is why money is made up of the red and the blue fibers, or the male and the female. And this is why the sex magic of money is named after the moon, which is exactly why the money is printed at the mint, which comes from the Egyptian fertility god of the moon, the bull god Min, which is why you'll find the symbol of the Illuminati on our money, and that's why they're called the Illuminati. So life is about the dualistic nature of truth and lies. And this is exactly why they try to teach us about the parallel worlds. And this is why they teach us the philosophy of the paradigm worlds, which para means two, and the di, or the dios, or the dia, means the cut or the slice, like as in diagonal. And this is the reason that we have interdimensional worlds. Dimensional, the dia, the min and the scion, the moon and the sun. And so now you'll understand why it's called a paradox. And so we have the second bull, or the story of the Bible, with the Old and the New Testament, the dualistic nature of duality, which is just separating the old year from the new year, the old cold winter from the new hot summer, or the season. And of course, this is why the Bible has the story of the parables, or the pair of bulls. And this is why religions are taught the dualistic duality of heaven or hell. And of course, evil versus good, or the devil versus Jesus, which is nothing more than the sun and the moon, which is nothing more than the ancient battle of day and night, or black and white. And it's funny, think about it, we have the bull god of the Bible, and also the bull of Satan, or Baal, or Baal. And of course, Satan or the devil is always one of the animals of the animal wheel of the zodiac, like the goat, the ram, or the bull. And Satan is just an anagram for Saturn. And the devil is just the perception of darkness or evilness. And the word devil means to shine or to divide, the dev-el. And of course, Lucifer also comes from the lux, or the light, which is the exact same meaning behind the word Bel. And the devil is a DE word that represents negativity, or let's say death or decline, like the death of December. Honestly, I can't believe that people actually think that there's a devil under the world right now as we speak, floating around in burning flames. Or perhaps that there's a God up there floating around looking
Religion
down
has actually convinced people that there's an invisible man living in the sky who watches everything you do every minute of every day. And the invisible man has a special list of 10 things he does not want you to do. And if you do any of these 10 things, he has a special place full of fire and smoke and burning and torture and anguish, where he will send you to live and suffer and burn and choke and scream and cry forever and ever till the end of time. But he loves you.
So why do you think that Jesus was born in a manger or a stable, because we're talking about an animal house, the house of the animal wheel, the zodiac. And the first virgin month of the zodiac is the house of Aries, which is the first 30 degrees of the animal house. And that's exactly why Jesus began at the age of 30, or 30 degrees. You see, this time of the year is known as the ancient equinox, known as the spring or the autumnal equinox, and this is when they say that Jesus was born. And this is exactly why they call Jesus the Lamb of God, because he's born in the month of March, which is Aries, the month of Mars. And that's exactly why Mary is named Mary, because she's named after the red blood of Mars, which is why she's called Bloody Mary, who is the mother of the newborn baby son, the baby lamb, Jesus. And that is exactly why Mary had a little lamb. So now you know the truth as to why Jesus was born in a manger, which is simply an animal of the zodiac wheel. And that is what the word zodiac means, the animal wheel, like when you go to the zoo. And notice that we're talking about horned animals, because Jesus is being portrayed as the ancient horned one. So now you'll understand why they are portraying Jesus in the Shroud of Turin with the horns on his head. If you look closely, you'll notice there's antlers or horns poking up from the head of Jesus, which represents the ancient horned one. And yes, this is exactly why the Shroud of Turin is named after the Taurus bull. And if you do not believe me or believe me, then perhaps you can explain the coat of arms from the city of Turin, which is named after the Taurus bull. Gee, what are the chances that the son of God, Zeus, was related to the bull? Which is why the Bible has the story of the Son of God, who is related to the bull. Which is why both Zeus and Jesus have the same etymology. So now you understand why they tell you that Jesus began his journey or his ministry at the age of 30. Because each house is 30 degrees, or 30 days like in the lunar month. And this is why it is called the ministry of Jesus, because Min is the fertility moon god. And you see that Jesus begins at the age of 30, or the first 30 degrees, which is actually the second house, or the Bible, the house of Taurus, the bull, which is just coded language for the bull god moon, Sin or Min. And this is where the word ministry comes from the bull moon god, Min. And this is exactly why we have a minister. He comes from the fertility of the bull moon god, just as governments have prime ministers. Which reminds me of the word sinister, which means the fertility of the moon god Sin. Which is why we have crooked or sinister senators. You know, the sin of Taurus, the moon, and the fertility bull god, Taurus, the bull. The bull and the moon, the old senator or the minotaur. You see, the son of the bull god Horus with the fertility horns of the moon, as well as the solar disk of the sun. And this is why the sons of the bull god are Zeus and Jesus, who happen to be, etymology speaking, the dios, or the two, the separation, the diagonal. Which is why they always show Jesus as the dios, the two halves, the picture of the red and the blue, or summer and winter. And the red and the white simply represent the red-hot summer and the cold ice of the winter. So the struggle between Jesus and Satan is nothing more than the struggle between light and dark. And this is why the right is the light, which is the correct way, as in Jesus, the sun god. And of course, the left side is the wrong side, or the dark evil side, which is represented by Satan, sin, or Lucifer. And notice the hands of Jesus. Notice one is up and one is facing downwards, as above, so below, exactly like the Baphomet, which represents day and night, or the left and the right, which is exactly why our money or our coins come in silver or gold, silver for the moon and gold for the golden sun, which are known as precious metals, or a chemical element. And they're printed at the mint and deposited in the depository, which is known as the bullion depository. So we have the gold bullion coin and the silver bullion coin, which of course is known as change. So you see, the bullion coin is the bull and the lion of the sun and the bull of the moon. And notice that they use the goddess who bears the torch to the underworld, as well as the buffalo bull. And of course, the euro puts the two together as Europa, the goddess who rides the beast. And notice that it's silver and gold for the silver of the moon and the gold of the sun. And where is all the gold bullion kept? At Fort Knox, which is in the center of the labyrinth of the double cube, or the octagon, which is the fort of the Knight of the Ox. The goddess Nyx, or Nox, is where we get our word night. The goddess of darkness and chaos, and the goddess of the light of the night. And of course she's connected with hell, which is known as Tartarus, the Taurus bull. So now you know the truth behind the Nyx bull synergy software. And by the way, notice the tank on top of the Fort Knox sign. And I just wanted to share with you that the word tank is the word Ankh with the T, or the cross, which is the bull spine. And of course, a tank is big and bulky, which comes from the big, bulky bull. And notice the pentagram within the circle, which is the star, or the Ishtar, the goddess Isis, who has the Ankh as her symbol, as well as the pentagram, or the star, the Ishtar, the star of witchcraft and Wicca, which is also used by the Satanists, as well as the governments, and of course in the Bible. And by the way, would you believe that Fort Knox is in the town of the Bull, which is called Bullitt in Kentucky County? And of course, the big, bulky tanks have a big cannon, which is a phallic symbol of the maypole, or the penis. And the phallic shaft of the can, or the cannon, comes from ancient Cana Phoenicia, which is where they worshipped the phallic pillar, or the phallic pole. And this is where we get our candle, which is the fire fertility of the Can of El. So now you understand the sex magic behind the cannon, and why it shoots out projectiles and missiles. And the bigger the cannon, the better the tank. And that's exactly why women love big cannons. Which is also why women love a big gun barrel, which is a phallic symbol. And of course, the bull is behind the big, mean, sharp, killing torpedo. Did you know that we get our word judge and judicial from the Judaic law of the ancient Israelites and the Hebrews? Which is why we have the code of the canon law, which comes from the Canaanite law. And you'll notice that the penny is looking to the left because the cent is the crescent of the moon. And the crescent of the moon is where we get our word crescent, as well as the word Chris or Christ, the Christos, the crescent, which is the spark L or the twinkle of the first light of the new moon, which of course comes from God's sun. So An was the Sumerian, Assyrian, Babylonian, celestial sky goddess in the form of the cow, which is the root for words like Nana or Inanna, as well as Diana. So now you know why we have a nanny. And An or Anu gives us words like ancient, which gives us our ancestors, or the ancestral heritage, like the primordial serpent of the anaconda, and the animal kingdom. So now you know why they have an ant farm, which is the same root foundation of the word and, an ant, an anti, an anti. And Jesus the Messiah is the one who is anointed with the sacred oil. And Jesus the Messiah is the one who gets washed and cleaned to be anointed by the sacred oils, which is the ancient ritual of the one to be sacrificed. And just like the ancient rituals of sacrifice, Jesus was the willing sacrifice, and that's why God accepted his sacrifice and forgave the sins of the people. And this is why the cult members of this old world religion drink the blood and eat the flesh of the sacrifice. And along with the ancient sacrifice rituals was the ancient ritual of sex, which brings us to the ancient ritual of anointing. So these sacred oils were always used for anointing the penis head, the sacred phallic pillar that was anointed by the ancient Israelites and the Hebrews and the Canaanites. And this is exactly why, to this very day, that we still use the sacred oils for sex. So you see, these sacred oils are still used to anoint the phallic penis head to this very day. And this ancient Hebrew ritual of anointing is also known as crowning, which is where the word crown comes from the golden god of the corn fertility himself, Saturn L, which was known as Cronus.
Interestingly, modern-day crowns whose points represent horns and the scepters of kings and queens are evolved images of these very items.
So to be crowned, or the word crown, comes from the ancient fertility of the horned god, which is why the Bible tells you that Jesus wore a crown of thorns. But a thorn is a horn. So actually, Jesus is the horned one, and ritualistically sacrificed exactly like the ancient slain bull. And of course, they still slay the bull to this very day. So we know that the golden crown comes from the golden horns of the golden god of fertility, Saturn L, the bull god, which is the meaning behind the cross inside the crown. So these two symbols are owned by the god Saturn L or Cronus. And of course, the logo of the ancient Hebrew Research Center is the cross inside the crown of the bull god Saturn L. And this is also the symbol of the highest order of the York Rite, known as the Knights Templar.
And the scepters of kings and queens are evolved images of these very items.
So the scepter of power, or the staff, is the L, or the lamd, the symbol of El, which is the walking cane, which is actually the ox goad, or the Semitic crook, which is the penis of the bull god El. And the walking cane, or the walking stick, is also known as a staff or a crook, which carries the symbolic meaning of evilness and crookedness, like the crook that was held from Nimrod of Babylon. And of course, Cronus Saturnale holds the symbol of the crook. And the walking cane or the walking stick is also known as a staff or a crook, which carries the symbolic meaning of evilness and crookedness, like the crook that was held from Nimrod of Babylon. And of course, Cronus Saturnale holds the symbol of the crook. So you say the L or the lambd is a walking stick, and this is true since ancient times. The bull penis has been made into a hard, long walking stick, just as you see here. You see, the cane or the walking stick was known as the ancient crook in Egyptian times. It was a symbol of power and strength and a symbol of magic. This is why they used it on their kings when they died for the afterlife. And actually, the crook comes from the ancient Egyptian heka, like a hex, which is a magical spell or a curse. The word heka means fire or light and is an ancient Kemetic Egyptian god of magic and spells. And this patriarchal worship certainly came from the ancient matriarchal worship of the goddess Hecate or Hecate. And don't forget that in ancient Egypt, which was known as Kemet or Kame, because in ancient Egypt the T was silent, so we have Hecate or Heka. So ancient Egypt or Kemet, known as the KMT, was known for its black soil as well as its black indigenous people. And of course, the sacred cow or the bull was their base of religion as well as their livelihood. And this is exactly why we see in ancient hieroglyphics that the ancient Egyptians identified the cow or the bull as black or Kemet. Oh, and by the way, Hecate or Hecate holds the Heka in her hand, and her color is the color black. And here is an actual witch confirming that Hecate or Heka is the color black.
Hecate. So this is me showing you my altar, which is black, my candle, which is black, my cauldron, which is black, the stones that are black, the mirror that's black, the cover for it that's black. Everything here is black. And that is because she is a moon goddess. It's also because she is associated with darkness. Black is her color.
So now you'll understand why the wizards, warlocks, or the ancient druids carry the magic Heka, or the shaft, the walking cane, or the magic wand. And you'll notice that this is the source of their power, from the magic shaft or the wand, the Heka, exactly like a conductor, who is the big bull or the boss who conducts his orchestra with his magic stick in his hand. And of course, this is why modern-day witches still use the Heka or the magic stick or wand. And of course, the father bull himself, who issues the papal bull, holds the bent cross, which is the symbol of the crook, the mighty magic symbol of authority and power. And I'm sure you're familiar with the bull whip as well as the threshing rod or the whipping stick. Like the story of the whipping of Jesus or the threshing of Jesus. Because Jesus is the harvest son of God, the fertility bull god or the corn fertility god Saturnale. You see, Jesus is what's known as the ancient sacrificial harvest lord or the corn spirit. This ancient threshing of the harvest lord is known as the last sheaf, or the corn dolly, the corn mother or the corn maiden, the corn father, the fertility of the corn spirit. And to learn more about this, I highly recommend the book from 1890 called The Golden Bow. So we see that the sacrificial idol worship is universal throughout the world. And we find these ancient idol worshipping figurines dating back to ancient Mesopotamia. And if you've ever seen the movie Clash of the Titans from 1981, you'll notice that the god in heaven is the bull god Zeus. And you'll notice that he controls all the little figurines. Which are exactly like little voodoo dolls. Which comes from the ancient ritual of poking holes in the sacrificial victim to gain its power or its spirit. Like when they speared the side of Jesus, the spear of destiny. Which is exactly why they still poke and spear and slay the bull to this very day. And of course, they held their sacrificial spear ritual on 7/11, which is known as 9/11. And the elite have held these ancient mass sacrificial rituals since ancient times, like the hecatomb, which was the ritual of killing at least 100 cattle or oxen, the bull. And by the way, did you notice the word Heka? Now remember that I told you about the corn dolls, the last sheaf? Remember and listen to this from Chris Angel, the Ang of El, talking about a voodoo doll. And he's not talking about any voodoo doll. He's talking about the corn doll. Exactly like the evil voodoo doll, Chucky.
Give me the power, I beg of you! S'accusati e me pote
And of course, Chucky grows up to become a black wizard performing voodoo magic. And of course now Chucky has to stab and spear the spirit out of the sacrificial victim. And of course the ancient idol figurine gives us our modern day word of doll. And of course millions of children across the world worship what the doll represents, which is idol worship. So basically they're nothing more than voodoo dolls. And of course now they have the world worshiping the American Idol. Idolizing and worshiping the fake, materialistic, unimportant things in life. Exactly like a fake model. And of course the industry exploits models and makes them do things they never would, like pose nude and naked, and of course they always add the satanic agenda by making them do things that they would never do. And I'm sure you're familiar with L, forwards and backwards, or as above, so below. And did you notice the black witches in the bell of L? So the crook is also known as a shepherd's staff, which is why Jesus is the sheep herder, the nomad, Jesus the shepherd. And of course, the name Jesus begins with the letter J, which is the symbol of the shepherd's staff, which is the symbol that controls the sheep, which is known as the Heka, the magic stick that controls the sheep. And we see the crook in the candy cane, which is used during Christmas time, the symbol of Jesus during Christmas. And Christmas is the winter solstice known as Saturnalia, when the Son of God dies. And this is the time that we celebrate the Trinity, the birth of Jesus, or the rebirth of Jesus. And you'll notice they use the symbol of the crook or the candy cane with the 3 stripes, which is known as the Babylonian 3/, which represents the Trinity, which is why Jesus was killed or sacrificed on the 3rd day. And of course, there were 3 that were to be sacrificed. And they also used 3 nails. And you'll notice that the 3 Babylonian slash is on the logo of the Monster energy drink. Now we already know that a monster is really just a moon star. And if you're familiar with Hebrew, you'll know that the 6th letter is the letter Vav, or V. And you'll notice that the V represents the bull horns and the female delta, her vagina. And remember that sex in Latin means 6, which is why the Monster energy drink is really 666, or sex, sex, sex. And the sex story of the Trinity is that of Mary, Jesus, and Joseph. Now real quickly, remember I told you that green is the color or the symbolism of horniness, like the little green horny devil? The horny one is the green one, which comes from the ancient green horned one from the forest, the horny bull. So now I think you'll understand about the story of the monsters or the moon stars, the horny bull and his little green one-eyed friend. And you know what the one-eyed monster means. So now you'll understand how disgusting it is for a movie to have horny monsters chasing a poor innocent little girl and going into her room at night when her parents aren't there, when she is alone. And they actually named her Boo, and a Boo is a girlfriend or a sex partner. And I can go on and on all day, and don't even get me started on the 911 symbolism. And it's the exact same story from Where the Wild Things Are. And you can watch my video series called Where the Evil Things Are. So let's get back to the crook or the candy cane. Candy canes are always red and white, which represent the winter and the summer. And this is exactly why the candy cane and Jesus, the sheep herder, is always dressed in red or white. And of course, the candy cane looks exactly like the heka or the crook. So I just want you to ask yourself, how many staffs, rods, sticks, or magic wands have you seen in real life that actually shoot anything out of the tip? And we all know that in the real world, magic wands and staffs do not shoot anything out. The only magic happens when you have an orgasm from the magic staff of the penis, which, in case you forgot, is where the L or the magic walking stick, the shaft of the bull penis, comes from. This is exactly why it makes me absolutely sick that the candy cane is meant to be licked and sucked on. The pedophile agenda of the Illuminati. And you'll notice that the word candy has the word can in it, the fertility of sucking on the rock-hard candy. And the polarities of winter and summer also reflect male and female. The white winter is the female, or the goddess, the god of ice. So now you understand about the white witch. And so now when you watch movies, you'll understand when you see the two opposing forces, which is nothing more than summer or winter, or day and night, the sunlight and the dark non-light. And you see, the ancients viewed winter and summer as a connecting as one, or a sexual union. And this is exactly why the candy cane has the red and the white. And this is exactly why we worship the North Pole during Christmas time, because the pole is erected straight up north. This is why we hang the phallic candy canes on the phallic Christmas tree that is pointed straight up and is up and erect and hard. And of course, we also have to hang the balls that come from the bull, which is why they are called bulbs. And this is the time when God's sun burns out and dies. So this is the time during winter when we light the lights of the Christmas light bulbs, the fire fertility of Bel. And why do you think that we wrap the garland around the tree in the circular motion from top to bottom? Because the garland represents the fertility of the serpent, of the goddess, which is wrapped around the phallic pole, which is the same sex magic that you'll find on our symbol of money, and the same sex magic of the stripper sliding up and down the pole. The old sex magic symbolism of the Illuminati. So you see, both Jesus and Santa are just anthropomorphic figures. And I'll give you one reason why Santa Claus has a big sack full of gifts. And his sack full of gifts have a double meaning, because they also represent the fertility sacs of the fertility mushroom, the Amanita muscaria. So now you'll understand the consuming and eating and licking of the magic phallic symbol of the candy cane, the red and the white, which is a symbol of the sexual fertility of the magic mushroom. You see, our current festival celebration of Christmas comes from the ancient celebration of Saturnalia, and part of the celebration was the sexual fertility rites of the magic mushroom. And usually only the elders could partake in these sacred drugs. That's why they were called the High Priest, the Most High. And in one of my videos, I explained the whole process of the magic mushroom enlightenment, or the cap of wisdom and knowledge. And the mushroom grows from a bulb and then grows up to give enlightenment from the bulb, which is why we have lamps that look like the magic mushroom. And the golden cup, or the golden chalice, is the elixir of the golden magic mushroom, the psychedelic effects it gives when you eat the magic mushroom, which is the whole theme of Alice in Wonderland and her drinking the poison elixir of the magic mushroom. And this is exactly why the medical symbol is that of the magic mushroom, the serpent and the pole, and of course the sexagram, the mushroom pharma of pharmaceuticals. So you see, Santa Claus is nothing more than an anthropomorphic figure of the magic mushroom, which was a sexual fertility aspect of Christmas time, or Saturnalia. So this is why we have the big Santa with little elves. A big Santa who has a big gift to give, and the little elves are busy making gifts. And it's funny, because all of these years you've seen the magic mushroom ornament and didn't even know it. And they have been symbolically drenching our children in the wisdom of the magic mushroom, and you've never even known it. And believe me, I could go on and on all day and night about this. So let's move on to Santa and Saturn, which is the exact same thing. So now you know the symbolism of the magic cube of Saturnale. And you'll notice that old Saturnale, or Saturn 9, comes out when the moon comes out, and he rides the ancient horned one. And remember that Saturn L is the child eater, the child slayer, which is why it makes me sick that parents go up there and try to put their children on the lap of Santa Claus. which is exactly like going and waiting in line to put your child on the lap of the belly of the beast and have it sacrificed to the god Baal or El. And now you know exactly why Santa has a big belly. And now you know why children hate to sit on the lap of the evil Santa Claus. And for more in-depth information, you can watch my other videos where I explain that Saturn is God and God is Santa, and Santa is also Satan. And if you do your research, you'll see that Santa also holds the cane or the crook. And remember that the ancient druids and the elders are the ones who could partake in the mushroom eating, exactly like the shamans. And remember that mushrooms develop during the night when the moon is out. And let's not forget that magic mushrooms are related to the cow or the bull, because some magic mushrooms actually grow out from the bullshit of the cow. And although you should do your own research, just in case you didn't catch the symbolism of the candy cane and the big sack of Santa, let me explain to you about the canes that were made from the bull penis and, of course, the scrotum of the bull, which is known as a bully bag. We have the cane and the big bull bag. So now I hope you see the bull fertility symbolism a little more clearly. Which brings us to the sacred act of anointing. So we already know that the ancient Hebrew Israelites anointed the phallic penis head. And anointing is the act of performing a sacred ancient ritual of pouring or smearing a sacred fluid on the head. An ancient divine practice of becoming sacred with the god. And it's an ancient custom to use the sacred anointing oils. And the sacred anointing is also known as the sacred consecration. And the sacred consecration means to fool and to secrete the sacred fluid, or to release the oozing fluid. I mean, honestly, it doesn't take 2 brain cells to figure out why you have to get on your knees as they firmly grab your head and hold it in place as they pour the sacred fluid on your head. And in case you don't have 2 brain cells, you know exactly what this means. Giving head. An act of subordination over the slave from the master. And that's why you anoint the penis head. That's why the holy anointing of the face or the head means the holy anointing of the chrism or the creme. And of course the creme is the cream that comes from the milk, which comes from the sacred cow or the bull, the sacred fluid or the consecrated oil of the bull. Which is exactly why the very word anointing comes from the oil of the An, or the bull cow goddess or god. So once again we see the ancient ancestral Anu bull as the source. And this ritual is also called a blessing, and it just kills me when I hear people say, "Oh, God bless you," and they don't even know what the word means. The word bless originates from the ancient practice of human and animal sacrifice. And the word bless means to be bledgioned or blessed and sprinkled with the blood of the sacrifice victim. So when you bless somebody, you are actually saying that you want them covered and sprinkled with blood. This is exactly why we say, "God bless you," because you are spraying and sneezing out the sprinkles, which is a form of consecration or releasing the sacred fluid. Exactly like the sprinkler, which comes from the head. So perhaps now you'll understand why we put sprinkles on our ice cream cones, topping the head of the ice cream cone. And of course, we sprinkle the bull or the Taurus. So now you understand why we anoint and sprinkle and bless the phallic ice cream cone. So now you know why we have the shape of the fertility balls, with the triangle, the triangle, the fertility shape of the cone. And you can view some of my other videos to research more about the sex magic of food. So when a person holds their staff or their penis in their hand, they can have an orgasm, which is known as coming.
The Hebrew behind the word come is halach, literally meaning to walk. The parent root is the word lach, a picture of a staff and a hand. When one takes his staff in hand, he is going to walk, go on a journey. From an Hebraic perspective, there is a literal journey. The Hebrew behind the word come is halach, literally meaning to walk. The parent root is the word lach, a picture of a staff and a hand. When one takes his staff in hand, he is going to walk, go on a journey. From an Hebraic perspective, there is a literal journey. The first word we are going to examine is the word know. If we have met another person, we would say, I know him. But the Hebrew word translated as know is not a casual knowledge of another, but an intimate knowledge. This is the verb yada in its ancient pictographic script. When we look at the use of this word in Genesis 4 verse 1, we can understand the depth of intimacy this word implies. And the man knew his wife Eve, and she conceived. The parent root of this verb is da. The first letter is a picture of a door, and the second letter is a picture of an eye. Together these letters mean the door of the eye. Only someone you intimately know can you get close to and look into their eyes, the door into their soul. A more precise meaning of this word is to intimately and completely know. And the man knew his wife Eve, and she conceived.
So you said to know someone is to look deeply into their eyes and know them intimately. But I don't know about you, but I have never gotten a girl pregnant and conceived with her by looking deeply into her eyes.
The Hebrew word translated as know is not a casual knowledge of another, but an intimate knowledge. Only someone you intimately know can you get close to and look into their eyes, the door into their soul.
Actually, excuse me, but we're actually talking about the doorway through the eye of life. And that's why we're talking about the book of Genesis, the story of creation with Adam and Eve, who conceive and give life to mankind. So an eye cannot conceive and give birth, but the vagina eye can. And the intimate knowing is used often in the Bible.
It's not in the letters. Those letters are Aramaic. The letters are Aramaic. The definition is Greek. That's pictographic Hebrew. That's the way Hebrew was originally written. Pictographs, like hieroglyphs. The first letter is the aleph. It's a picture of an ox head. The second letter is the bet, a picture of a tent. That's Hebrew. Now, what does that word mean? Well, we're going to talk a little bit more.
And the intimate knowing is used often in the Bible.
It's not in the letters. Those letters are Aramaic. The letters are Aramaic. The definition is Greek. That's pictographic Hebrew. That's the way Hebrew was originally written. Pictographs, like hieroglyphs. The first letter is the aleph. It's a picture of an ox head. The second letter is the bet, a picture of a tent. That's Hebrew. Now, what does that word mean? Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about this word itself, but just very easily, the ox represents strength. The bet is a picture of a tent, and it represents the tent. or the family. So this word literally means the tent pole. It's the strength of the tent. What holds up, when you go camping, you put up the tent poles, that's what holds up the tent. It's the strength of the house.
So the Hebrew word for father is Abba, which is the A and the B. But the A represents the male aspect and the B represents the female aspect of the goddess, her house, her abode, or her tent. Which is why the B represents the female goddess. So the tent and the pole is really the foundation of the sexual union between man and woman. So we say God our Father, but that's incorrect 100%, because actually it comes from the male and the female sexual union, giving everlasting life.
Oh, she's beautiful. She's like an angel. Okay, I had nothing to do with that. But, you have to admit, it's actually a pretty good song. Naturally.
Notice the fertility ball dropping down. So let's take a look at some more symbolism of the Taurus sliding down the phallic pole. Let's check out the can fertility in the country of Canada, in none other than Ontario, or the Ontario, the Taurus bull, in the city of Toronto, or the Taurus bull of Toronto. And as you see, once again, we have the sexual symbology of the male and the female, the Taurus sliding up and down the pole. And you'll notice that it's sitting on a tripod, because all oracles or all crystal balls always rest on the tripod, which comes from the ancient Pythia, the oracle of Delphi. And would you believe that the diameter, or the dios, the diagonal cut or slice, the cross section, is 66.6 meters, or 666. Of course, there are 7 layers, and also the white-shaped donut underneath is known as the Ra dome, which is an antenna tower for none other than Baal. And of course, the ancient horn god is the one used for the logo or the coat of arms for Ontario. And they finished the CN Fertility Tower in 1976. And of course, there are 1,776 steps to the main deck, which is still 1776. And would you believe that the new World Trade Center 1 is going to be 1,776 feet tall? Because on May 1st in 1776, the Bavarian Illuminati was created. And then 2 months later, on July 4th, 1776, they formed the Declaration of Independence. And then we have the 7 points, or the 7 horns of the goddess, along with 1776. And would you believe that from head to toe, she stands 111 feet and 1 inch? And of course, their deity stands upon the primordial mound of the watery abyss, and the light of the torch of the underworld, the Diana Lucifera, she who bears the light, stands upon the 11, or L-even, pointed star. And of course, she is known as Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft and magic. Escape from New York came out in 1981, 20 years before the September 11th attacks in Manhattan, New York, on 7/11 or 9/11, September 11th, which is actually the 7th month. Septem means 7, so 9/11 is really 7/11, let alone all the 7/11 symbolism. And of course, 7/11 makes us think about Islamic terrorists. And would you believe that Escape from New York was released on the eve of 7/11? So the film takes place in none other than New York, the city of New York, in Manhattan. And remember that I discovered that Manhattan was discovered in the 1600s by Henry Hudson on September 11th, which is why we see a lot of the esoteric wisdom about the L-even, the 11, the twin pillars, or the two pillars of the sacred god and goddess, which is why New York is the 11th state, which is why the buildings are 110 stories, or L-even, 11, on the second day, which is 11, on the 11th day, and of course the 111 days remaining till the end of the year. Not to mention Flight 11, and of course it goes on and on. The mysteries of the 11, or the L-even. And remember, El, the bull god of the Bible, was always worshipped in ancient Cana Phoenicia as the twin pillars, the two bulls, the L-even. And would you believe that the very word building means the bold house, which comes from the bull, which is why the building of the bulls is located on the boulevard. The dualistic polar opposites of the two lanes, or the two pillars of negative and positive, which comes from the black tar of the road, the black Taurus bull. And we follow the path, or the road, of the yellow-orange sun brick road, which is found in the mid-L, where we find reflectors, the ray of the sun and the tor of the bull. So the reflector reflects the light of Re, or Ra, the sun god, the bull god. The golden red, orange sun. And orange and black represent Halloween, which is known as Samhain. It is in the mid-L of the year, or in between the beginning and the end, the Celtic New Year. You see, Halloween is known as the night of the walking dead, or the living dead, which is exactly the reason that we dress up as the living dead, so that we can mix and mingle amongst them. Because this is the time of the year of the descent to the underworld.
Attention, you are now entering the debarkation area. No talking, no smoking. Follow the orange line to the processing area. The next scheduled departure to the prison is in 2 hours. You now have the option to terminate and be cremated on the premises. If you elect this option, notify the duty sergeant in your processing area.
Referring to the Royal Dutch, the House of Orange, the ones who discovered Manhattan. And September marks the harvest orange moon, and the Illuminati film A Clockwork Orange. So you see, this is the time of the underworld known as the Ember months, as in September, October, November, and December. So September marks the beginning of fall, when things begin to die and fall. The Ember months, as in timber, like when a tree falls, we say timber. So September means 7 burn, or the ember coals of September, the 7 or the 9 burn. And the amber is sacred to witchcraft, as in the Amber Witch from 1839. And amber means the Bernstein, which means the burnt stone. And now you know why the Bernstein Bears are the color of amber. And I'm sure you're familiar with the abduction of Persephone when she goes to the underworld for half of the year, which the sun does every year. And the ember months represent this descent to the underworld. And this is why when we have an abduction, we have what's called an Amber Alert. And of course, it's the color amber. And yes, it did begin during the month of October. Believe me, there's a lot more to the Amber Alert bulletins than you could ever imagine. Since ancient times, the amber is connected with and sacred to the sun. And the amber takes its name from the Greek word for electricity, because the amber can hold an electric charge. So now you'll know why they made the film about the ember and the electricity.
And a way out of ember.
Did you notice that it came out in October? And of course, the 8, because oct means 8. Let's listen as Bill Murray describes the underground set.
Well, we're on what I'm told is the biggest set in the world. We're in Belfast, and this set used to be part of the shipyards here. They call this the paint hall, yes? And this is where the Titanic was built. That's how big it is.
Like the Amber Room that's gone missing to the underworld.
It was an extravagance of royal proportions. A room lined from ceiling to floor in amber. A single room worth a king's ransom. For 300 years, this extraordinary room wandered the world from palace to palace, until it became the spoils of a vicious and horrific war. At last, it vanished into mystery, leaving behind only a few small tokens of its existence.
And Anbar is a town in Iraq, which means granary, a storehouse for animal feed, which is the threshed grain, like the golden rye or the golden wheat, the amber wheat. Like the harvest fertility goddess Freya, which Friday is named after. And as legend has it, the amber was created from the tears of the goddess Freya. And notice her amber burnt hair. And of course, she has the burnt orange or the amber hair. So let's get back to the etymology of the ancient ancestral word of An, or Anu, the ancient Sumerian god and goddess. So remember that Anu, or An, was the celestial sky goddess. So the Sumerian An means the heavens or the sky. That's why we have Heaven. And remember that An was the female deity as well as the male deity. But since the matriarchal worship came before the patriarchal worship, the word An or Anna represents the female. That's why we have today names like Anna or Diana. And the Sumerian An gave birth to the Anunnaki, those who from heaven came to earth. An means the sky or the heavens, and Ki is the earth. These are known as the creator gods, like the god Anshar, who is also known as the sky axle or the sky god. And that's why every creature that lives upon earth is known as an animal. And An also gives us our words like anatomy or anthropology. And the etymology of the ani in animal is the same as dia or dios, just like Diana. which is the same etymology, like I said before, of Zeus as well as Jesus or Jesus, the Dios, the two halves, as in the diagonal, the sun and the moon, the day and the night, the Dios. This is why we have a symbol, or the same bull, because you see both sides are the same, or symmetrical. And almost every living creature in the animal kingdom is symmetrical. Nature's dualistic principle of duality. It's known as bisymmetry or symmetrical. So a human and a fish are both animals because they have bilateral symmetry. Exactly like insects, which actually means in sections. The on or the in. And I know there are a few exceptions, but almost every single living creature on this earth needs both a male and a female in order to reproduce. Notice the produce as in deuce, as in dose, as in Zeus, the two, the sexaduce. Because all animals reproduce with the dualistic nature of male and female, which is why almost all of the symbols of religion have the dualistic nature of negative and positive, the two halves, the Dios, the two sides. Which is why the Bible has the story of the two, the evil and the good, Satan and Jesus, which is really just day and night, the moon and the sun, or hell and heaven. So the ani in animal is referring to the two sides, the dualistic principle, exactly like anti or anti, which is why we have the word Antichrist. And notice the upside down crosses, because they're showing you the dualistic principle of as above, so below. Anti means against, and Christ is the crescent of the moon, which is why the Antichrist is known as the man of sin, and sin is the moon. So the Antichrist is nothing more than the moon, which is against the sunlight. And of course the moon reflects the light of Re or Ray, the sun, just as the Christos of the oil does. Again, connecting the ancient cow, bull, on with the moon. So like I said, all of these primordial creator gods are gods who have the element of the air, which is why the very etymology of the word animal tells us that it is a living creature that breathes air. And you'll notice when you look up the etymology of the word animal or the breath of El, they show you a picture or refer you to the deer, the elk, the horned one, the sacred horned one of the horny moon. And the antelope has antlers that are anti or opposing one another. They are parallel. And the horny horns or the antlers is like a branch. And notice the word branch has the ankh in it, coming from the sacred tree of the goddess, which is the horned one of the bull on. And the opposing anti-antlers give us our word antenna, which are the two horns opposing one another. So now you understand where we get the word anthropomorphism, which is combining the human traits with that of the animal kingdom. And so now you'll know the truth behind the air and the anthrax.
The concern with anthrax is spores, because they can become airborne and you can inhale them. They can get deep in your lung, And by the time it's diagnosed, it can be a very serious situation.
And now you'll know why the group Anthrax has a song called Air. So now you'll understand the horned stag or the horned elk and the breath of El in the animal, and why the film Harry Potter shows the last breath of El, or the last breath coming from Sirius Black, and then they show the horned elk, the horned god. And of course they show the horned god in the movie The Queen.
He was wounded.
Yes. We got our...
And from the man who came from heaven, the Starman, we see the horned one. And how could we forget about Tom Green and the Moose?
Okay? Come on! Come on! You guys, we can help it! Guys, come back! We can help them! We can revive them! Come back! Come on, come on. Come on, boy. We want to revive it. Here, come hump it with me. It'll get its heart going again. Come here. Come on. Come on, we can revive it. We can... Come on, man. Come on, man.
Unfortunately, this animal is now dead because it can no longer breathe the air. And in order to live and breathe, every creature on Earth needs to breathe the air, which comes from the bull or the oxen, which is why we need oxygen in order to survive. Or in order to survive El. And we see the dualistic nature in analog, the sound and video. And we use analogies as comparisons. And then we use the anti or the antonym for the opposite meaning. And when things are strange or abnormal, it's called an anomaly. I want to interrupt real quickly and talk about one of the world's best restaurants, as well as a new film coming out. And the name, of course, is called El Bulli. And of course, we have the chef pictured here with the bull god, El. And of course, we take part in this ancient ritual of consuming the flesh and drinking the blood, which is why we sacrifice the bull god El and eat the Angus beef, along with the wine, which represents the bull's blood. And of course, all the ancient cultures sacrificed the bull. And would you believe that the blood would drip into the vessel, which is known as a bowl? Yes, the bowl comes from the bull. And that's exactly why we say bull, and it sounds the same, because it comes from the same bull. And that's exactly why it's called a vessel, which is like the blood vessel, because the bull holds the bull's blood. And by the way, the god of wine, is known as Bacchus or Dionysus, who is the son of the bull god Zeus. That's why we have the Dionysian bull. So you see, the bull is the same as Baal or Baal or El. It is the fertility ball, which is the same source. That's why the round fertility ball, the disco ball, is always around for romance, because it's showing the ancient history from the ball. So yes, the bull comes from the fertility ball. And this is exactly why all sports use the fertility ball and placing the ball inside of the hole. Which brings us to the sport of bowling, which uses the fertility ball of the bull. Which is why you throw the ball down the long, narrow alley or the canal, which is the tunnel of love. And of course, the black ball of the hole slides down the alley and hits and rams into the fertility pins or the penises. That's correct. Etymologically speaking, the word pin comes from the penis. And when we take a look at the bull god Osiris, we notice his headdress is exactly like the bowling pin. So we see the bull goddess Isis and Osiris, the bull god, with the headdress of the Atif, which is the two pillared horns of the ostrich feather that is flanking the centerpiece, which is known as the bulbus, which is known as the head jet, the white pharaoh's erect crown of Upper Egypt. Thus Osiris wears the phallic penis head that looks like the pinhead of the mushroom, which is a phallic symbol since ancient times. And let's not forget that the ancient pyramids themselves are actually phallic symbols of the penis, which is the erect fire fertility symbol of the male. So Osiris is wearing the crown penis head of truth, because his penis is in between the two feathers, or the goddess, which is known as Ma'at, the aspect of Isis in truth. So yes, Osiris is the phallic penis mushroom head, the emerging cap of the head of the penis, coming from the universal veil, which most of us know as a mushroom bulb, because the mushroom bulb is full of light that will grow up and enlighten the world with its enlightenment of its magical qualities. So we see the penis head emerging from the universal veil, breaking through the top, which is the mushroom penis head. And the universal veil is the female goddess, which is actually known and turns into what's known as the vulva, which is the vulva of the vagina, the goddess. Which is why we have the huge earth holes known as volcanoes, the vulva or the vagina of the earth. And now you know why the Vulcan gave the symbol of the V, which is the V or the delta of the vagina. And now you know the meaning behind the cars known as Volvos, which is the vulva of the vagina combined with the male aspect of Mars, or the erect penis of the male. Sex magic. And in the goddess labia minora of the vulva or the vagina, you will find the bull of the Minotaur in her labyrinth or her leviathan, which is exactly where you are going to find the bulb of the vestibule or the vesta bull, which is the female fertility of the penis head or the bull head, which is why it's called the clitoris, from the Taurus bull. Just as the male has the bulb of the penis, the human penis, which is named after the bull god. So you see, Jesus, or the image or the symbol of Jesus, is nothing more than the same symbol of that of Osiris or any other fake man-made god that represents the annual season of the year, the anointed one who gets sacrificed during the annual year of the harvest, which is the story of the Last Supper, or the end of the zodiac annual year, or should I say, it's known as the last sheaf, or the last corn dolly of the annual harvest year. And they sacrificed the ancient corn doll so that it would forgive the sins of the community and bring a good harvest for next year, putting back the blood into the soil of the earth to replenish and bring back a fruitful harvest. So the ancient practice of the anointed one, or the anointing the penis head, goes way back into history, way to prehistory of the Bible. And let's not forget that the ancient Egyptians, or the ancient Kemet or Kame, came from the ancient pastoral nomads. And these ancient nomads had the wise shamans who practiced the eating of the sacred magic mushroom, which was used in ancient fertility rituals as well. So like I said before, the magic mushroom grows and comes out of the shit or the feces of the cow or the bull, the goddess or the god. That's why the magic which comes from God is that of the bull, which is why Isis, the goddess of magic, has the power of magic, because she's the creator which creates the magic of the magic mushroom. So you're starting to understand the theology behind the fertility of the mushroom, or the penis head, the sacred cap of wisdom and knowledge, which is exactly why the high priest was high, because he really was partaking in the ancient rituals of connecting with the High Lord, or the Most High, the God, because when you get high on mushrooms, you think you can connect with God. And these ancient shamanistic high priests, or Jewish high priests, always anointed the phallic stone, which was known as anointing the phallic penis head. And this dates back to ancient prehistory. So now you'll understand why we have the fire fertility of the Temp El Mount, which is the ritual sacred ground where Muhammad ascended to heaven. And the sacred rock is actually a sacred hole in the rock, which is the female aspect of her hole. That's why it's actually a cave under the foundation stone. So now I think you'll understand why we have the golden magic mushroom and the golden dome of the rock, which is the golden phallic penis head of the anointed one, the bull god, which is why you have the symbol of the bull on top, the golden penis head. And since we're talking about the ancient fertility of the foundation stone, I thought I might inform you about the ancient ritual, or the Freemasonic ritual, of the cornerstone. Now, for the first time, I'll tell the world the truth about the cornerstone, or the L stone, which is shaped like the L. I'm sorry, but it's just so funny that Freemasons just don't even get the true nature of the cornerstone ritual, so allow me to explain. A cornerstone is a cornstone. You see the fertility of the hard penis of El, which of course comes from the golden corn fertility god himself, Saturnel. And this is exactly why the corn dog is a fertility symbol of the corn god, Saturnel. So the corn stone fertility ritual is known as a consecration or an anointing, which is nothing more than anointing the phallic penis head for the consecration, the sex magic ritual. So now you know why they anoint the cornerstone with the corn oil. Now take a look at the table. Do you see that phallic can, the fertility of El, the male aspect, going into the goddess hole or her cave? It's a sex magic ritual, and it's called a time capsule.
Brother Grand Marshal, you will proclaim silence.
In obedience to the order
In obedience to the order
of the Grand Master of Masons of Minnesota, I now require all those present to preserve silence and to pay due order and decorum for the ceremonies of this occasion.
That Freemasons are builders and men of vision and compassion, the University of Minnesota hereby invites the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Minnesota to conduct a cornerstone ceremony for the University of Minnesota Amplatz Children's Hospital at 11 a.m.
Brother Grand Secretary, at an appropriate time in the construction of the building, you will deposit the casket in the cavity prepared for it.
at an appropriate time in the construction of the building. You will deposit the casket in the cavity prepared for it. At an appropriate time in the construction of the building. You will deposit the casket in the cavity prepared for it.
And may the Supreme Architect of the universe grant that ages shall pass away, ere it is again seen of men.
I scatter this coin as an emblem of plenty. May the blessings of the bounteous heaven shower upon us and upon all patriotic and benevolent undertaking.
In the name of the most worshipful Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Minnesota, I now proclaim that the cornerstone of the structure here to be erected has this day been proven square, level, and plumb, true and trusty, and laid according to the ancient customs of the craft by the Grand Master of Masons.
Brethren and guests, we are about to commence a great work. Masonry teaches us that before entering upon any important undertaking, we should first invoke the blessings of deity.
First invoke the blessings of deity.
Right Worshipful Grand Secretary, it has ever been the custom on occasions like the present to deposit within a cavity in the cornerstone to be laid.
To deposit within a cavity in the cornerstone to be laid.
Certain memorials of the period at which the edifice was erected. Brethren and guests, we are about to commence a great work. Masonry teaches us that before entering upon any important undertaking, we should first invoke the blessings of deity.
First invoke the blessings of deity.
Right Worshipful Grand Secretary, it has ever been the custom on occasions like the present to deposit within a cavity in the cornerstone to be laid.
To deposit within a cavity in the cornerstone to be laid.
Certain memorials of the period at which the edifice was erected.
Family name this edifice bears. The Masonic cornerstone lies in the northeast corner, between the north, the place of darkness, and the east, the place of light. It reminds us that we are ever to be progressing from darkness to light, from ignorance to knowledge, from hopelessness to certainty. Be with us now as we consecrate this creation.
As we consecrate this creation,
erected as a place wherein the health and well-being of our children and children everywhere is the charge.
Is the mission, is the dream. Amen.
So the cornerstone is the cornstone of the fertility of Saturn L, which is why the cornerstone is shaped as the L, or the ang of L, the angle. Which brings us to the black cube of Mecca, the Kaaba, which of course dates back to the time of Adam and Eve, the falling star, or the monolith, the black rock that fell from heaven. Which is why this monotheistic religion worships the idol of the black rock, which is of course idol worship. And this is why millions and millions idolize the Kaaba stone, which is actually the cornerstone. And once again, the cornerstone, or the corn fertility stone, is related to the goddess vagina hole, or the vagina stone. So now you know why when you graduate, you become an alumni, or an illuminated one. And this symbol of completion, or graduation, is the symbol of consecration, the ritual of anointing, which is the reason that you wear the black Kaaba stone, or the black cube of Saturn L, on your head. Thus the cap of the magic mushroom wisdom of the magic cube of time. And this is why the tail is on the cap, because it represents the tail of the bull. And yes, this is exactly why the Oxford cap is named after the bull. And just as they slayed the head of the bull, when you graduate, you slay your head and throw the cap of the bull into the air. And this bull moonstone, or the Kaaba stone, is in a silver frame with silver nails, which represents the silver of the moon. So you see, the Kaaba stone was originally white, they say, and then it turned black because of the sins of the people. But sin is the moon, so what we're talking about is the black and the white phases of the moon. Black or white, day or night, winter, summer, or male and female, the virgin aspect and the whore aspect, because the moon reflects the horniness of sex of the goddess. I mean, why do you think they cover the Kaaba stone in a black veil? Because they cover their women in the black veil. Which is why we have the V and the L, the V of the vagina of the goddess, and L. So you see, the Kaaba stone is nothing more than the representation of the female goddess. So now you'll understand why Islam, or Mecca, has what's known as a haram, which comes from the word harem, meaning the sanctuary or the forbidden place of the goddess. The haram, which is the forbidden knowledge of the goddess aspect of the creator, which comes from the house of the whore, which is exactly why Harlem Nights is about the whorehouse.
Harlem Nights.
The Pity Patty Club, or the sex club, where you can go by and get a girl or a quickie.
Was Club Sugar Ray's. The man to know was Quick.
Now, when you see what kind of work do you do?
Whatever's required.
What would a woman that fine want in a big, fat, nasty, greasy, 12 sandwich eating?
And this is why they let you know that Big Mama's in charge, or the goddess, the queen.
I ain't got nothing to say. You done insulted me, and I got to kick your ass right now. And afterwards, I don't want no hard feelings either. What the fuck is wrong with you? Ain't nothing wrong with me. What the fuck is wrong with you? You done accused me of stealing. The only thing I'm stealing out here today is your face. You out of your fucking mind? Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Come on, sucker. Let's get it on. Nigga, you hit like a bitch. Oh, you look loaded if you throw it, ain't you, huh? Yeah. I punch like a bitch, huh? Okay. I punch like
course, the whore is the meaning behind the whole of the Holy Bible. And the sacred sex of the goddess is the sacred mystery behind the sacred Kabbalah, or the Kabbalah, which is known as the Tree of Life, because you see we're dealing with the magic of creation, the creation story of sex, the L, even, the two partners, Adam and Eve, who create sex. And that's why the symbol is that of the male and the female intercourse. And this is why the definition of Kabbalah means to receive. So the religions of the world use sex magic to gain the control of the mind control. Because the Illuminati game is not about money, it's about power. You see, we're back to a matriarchal society because the queen is the queen bee of power. And this is exactly why men are used to fight in wars. And if you're married, well then you know the truth of who really holds the power in the family, and that's the mother. She has the male go out and earn and work hard for the money that she gets to spend. And this is why if you divorce the diva, you have to give her half of everything. And why do you think men have to give half when they go to court? Because they are under Judaic law, the judicial law of Judea, which is why we have a judge who issues the Judaic law. And as I said before, Judah or Judea comes from Yahuda or Yahoda or Yahweh, the way of the moon god, Yah. And this is exactly why a judge dresses in a dress or the gown, which is a feminine garment, because they are trying to connect to the divinity or the divine nature of the deity, which is why the judge dresses in a gown or a dress and then puts on a wig to impersonate the female aspect of the goddess. So now you understand about the Judah judge of Judea, Judge Judy. So this is why we see the priests and the clergy of religions or cults, they wear the dress, which is the gown or the feminine aspect of the goddess. So the word pope means father, but actually he's dressed as a female. So really the father really means the opposite, which is the goddess or the mother. And this is why our world is ran by a queen, not a king. And that's why we don't have a king. And this is why when you play the game of chess, we all know who has the power. The power lies within the queen. And speaking of power, how do we get power? Through our electricity. And when we want to give life to our machinery, we have to push the power button, which of course is the symbol of sex. And of course, to turn it on, you have to push the button in. And that's exactly why the button is called the butt. And the asshole is known as the anal, or the An and the El, which of course again comes from the ancient An, or Anu, the bull god or goddess. And you will find this sex magic symbolism in company logos, like this logo from the Cubs, which is created through the sex magic of the logo, the baby Cubs. And this is the same symbol that you will find at the Vatican. And of course, we see this sex magic symbol at the United Nations, which is the exact same symbolism that you find at Solomon's Temple or in Washington, D.C. And you will find this sex magic symbolism in company logos, like this logo from the Cubs, which is created through the sex magic of the logo, the baby cubs. And this is the same symbol that you will find at the Vatican. And of course, we see this sex magic symbol at the United Nations, which is the exact same symbolism that you find at Solomon's Temple or in Washington, D.C. And this is why the Bible centers around the Hor, or the Horeb, Mount Sinai, the fertility of the fire mountain. And Mount Sinai is where Moses encountered the burning bush of the goddess. And of course, this is where they built the monastery, which is named after the moon. And this is why Mount Sinai is known as Jabal Musa, as in Baal, and the Musa, which is the horny moon mountain of Baal. And this is exactly why the mountain of Jabal Musa has the bull carved into it. And this is exactly why Moses, or Musa, came down from the horny mountain with horns. And like the Bible said, his hair of his head was white as wool. And of course he had the sexual fire in his eyes, so of course he had the white head with horns, because he is the penis head, the anointed one. And now the truth about angels.
Let your imagination take flight with angels. They appear at key events in the Bible. The angel Gabriel delivers the message of the Immaculate Conception to Mary. An angel tells the shepherds that Jesus is born.
Did you notice the horned cow or the horned bull?
The Gospels tell us that angels are present at the crucifixion and the resurrection. They frame Jesus' life on earth.
Notice how they show you the Son of God.
For barely 30 years, Jesus traversed the earth. With Jesus showing the warmth and compassion of the biblical angels, what need then would there be for these divine emissaries? Only upon the death of Jesus would angels begin to reappear. From this very moment, when an angel announces the resurrection of Jesus, with the death and resurrection of Jesus, a bold new faith was born.
They appear at key events in the Bible. They frame Jesus' life on earth.
In the last book of the New Testament, known as the Book of Revelation, instead of finding comfort in images of compassionate angels, the early Christians conceived of them as carrying out the vengeance of God, divine retribution against a world of unbelievers, a time of unthinkable destruction and upheaval. Suddenly, disturbingly, in Revelations, a tumultuous battle erupts among the angels in heaven.
And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. The great dragon, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Revelation 12:9.
Although the Archangel Michael vanquishes Satan and his forces, The earth itself is so racked with evil, it is doomed to experience the terror of the final days, the last judgment of God.
They frame Jesus' life on earth. They appear at key events in the Bible.
You see, in the real world, angels are not real at all. So why do you think it is that angels frame the life of Jesus on earth? And why do you think they appear at key events in the Bible? Because the truth is that an angel is the ang of El, or an angle, which is the same thing as a cornerstone. You see, because we're talking about the zodiac wheel, the annual wheel of the year, the 1 year it takes for the sun, or should I say the earth, to revolve around the sun. And this is why Monday and Sunday begin and end our week, which of course is the moon Monday and the sun Sunday. And this is exactly why the most important angels in the Bible are Michael, which is the son of Sunday, and Gabriel, or Jibrael, because this is the angel of Moon's Day, or Monday. And why do you think it is that Gabriel will be the one that blows the horn at end times? Because we're talking about the end of the annual year during the 12th month of cold winter and death, at the end of time, before time is reborn, like the month is reborn, or like the year is reborn. And believe me, there's not going to be a rapture or the end of the world. It's just the end of an age, because a rapture is just the raw aperture, like the aperture of your camera, again dealing with the sun. And again, the apocalypse is just the Apollo eclipse, or the eclipse of the sun. And this is exactly why we have the book of Revelations, because we're talking about the sun revolving around the earth, or the earth revolving around the sun in modern times, because the ancients actually thought that the sun revolved around the earth. And this is why Jesus is the firstborn of the dead, because the sun dies and re-rises every year. And of course the sun is reborn from the dark death every day. So you see, the earth will come to an end at the end of the year, during winter time, the time of death and destruction. But then Jesus will return, or the sun will return and save everyone and bring us a new year. And that's exactly why the Bible in Revelations says the appearance of the Lamb means the arrival of Jesus. The sun will return and be reborn for the new year. And why do you think the magic number 7 can be found throughout the Bible? I mean, why do you think the number 7 is so lucky? And why are there 7 sins, or the 7 sacraments, or the 7 seals of Revelations? Because we're talking about the sun, which is the 7th day of the week. And that's exactly why they make 7 circles around the Kaaba stone. This is why their symbol is the sexagram, or the Star of David, which is the Star of Divide, showing the male and the female aspect of the sun and the moon, the heavens. It's showing the 7 planets. That's why the center is the sun, the 7th day. And that's why the sun is in the centaur, or the center of the zodiac wheel, which is the numbers that are doubled of the Star of David. So instead of 6, it's 12. And this is why God's number is the 6th day, Saturn's day. And the 6 is also doubled as the 12. That's why El, or God, is 12 also. The 6 and the 12, doubled. Thus, the Son of God, which comes from God, is the 7th and the 13th, the two numbers that come after God's day. And in the Bible, the zodiac is called the Mazareth, and that's exactly why Jesus is from the place called Nazareth. So why do you think the book of Revelations tells you that there will be 4 horsemen in the apocalypse, or the 4 archangels? And why do you think there are 4 letters for the Word of God? For the exact same reason that there are 4 seasons. And that's why the symbol of the Christians is the cross, which is the symbol of the zodiac. And an archangel is named after the fertility horns of the Ark of the Moon. And this is where we get the Ark of Noah, or Noah's Ark. And again, we see the creation story of the gene of Isis, and this is the fertility symbolism that's behind the truth of Noah's Ark, and carrying on the sacred seed of life. And we see the ancient flood stories that predate the Bible in ancient Sumeria and Mesopotamia. Just like the ancient Egyptian vessels, or the arks, the boats that symbolized life and death, the sun and the moon as they traveled across the sky, the heavens, the sea of life, the blue heavens. In the Egyptian creation myth of Heliopolis, we see the release of a bird that flies over the waters until it reaches land, or a rock, exactly like in Noah's Ark, in the dove. So we find the goddess moon arch, or ark, in the buildings of churches, because it represents the goddess, the fertility that comes from the birth or the gene of Isis. And this is why Moses, when he went to Mount Sinai, came down with the Ark of the Covenant, or the Ark of the Moon, which is the Ark of the sacred goddess, her box, her ark, her arch. So now you know why we relate boats to females, because they are a vessel, the sacred vessel of the goddess, which is why we have a blood vessel, which is the sacred blood of the goddess. And this is why a boat, or the female, gives birth at the dock. So the sacred golden ark, or the sacred vessel, or the chalice, is nothing more than the sacred bloodline of the female goddess of Mary, which represents Mars in Aries, the house of the Lamb, the baby son. And so we have Ezekiel, the prophet, who had the vision of the wheel within a wheel. And of course, the wheel within the wheel is simply describing the microcosm and the macrocosm, a solar system that revolves within inside of a galaxy, and the galaxy revolves within inside of the universe.
As for the appearance of the wheels and their structure, it was like the glow of chrysolite. The 4 of them had one likeness, and their appearance and their structure were just as when a wheel proved to be in the midst of a wheel.
When a wheel proved to be in the midst of a wheel. When a wheel proved to be in the midst of a wheel.
The word of Jehovah occurred specifically to Ezekiel, the son of Buzi, the priest in the land of the Chaldeans.
And the Chaldeans were an ancient stellar cult that means moon worshipper.
By the river Kibar, and upon him in that place the hand of Jehovah came to be. And I began to see and look, a great cloud mass and quivering fire, and it had a brightness all around, and out of the midst of it there was something like the look of electrum out of the midst of the fire. And out of the midst of it there was the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was how they looked. They had the likeness of earthling man, and each one had 4 faces, and each one of them 4 wings. And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of the foot of a calf. And out of the midst of it there was the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was how they looked. They had the likeness of earthling man, and each one had 4 faces, and each one of them 4 wings. And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of the foot of a calf.
Their soul was like the foot of a calf.
They would go each one straight forward. And as for the likeness of their faces, the 4 of them had a man's face, with a lion's face to the right, and the 4 of them had a bull's face on the left. The 4 of them also had an eagle's face. That is the way their faces were.
So like I said, the 4 archangels are actually the 4 archangels, or the 4 L's, the crossroads, the cross that separates the zodiac wheel. And I'll prove this even further using the Bible and the cherubim that were known as the Ang of Els, or the angels.
Had a man's face, with a lion's face to the right, and the 4 of them had a bull's face on the left. The 4 of them also had an eagle's face.
So let me explain why we have the tetramorph of the 4 cherub. You see, these are the 4 symbolic creatures of the 4 cardinal directions, north, east, west, and south, or the 4 houses of the cross of the zodiac. That's why we have the house of Leo, the house of Taurus, the bull, and the house of Scorpio, which is actually the eagle, and the human head represents Aquarius, the man with the pitcher of water. So the sun is going to the underworld and is gonna die, thus the ember months. And this is why the Scorpio and the eagle represent the dying sun. And the cherub of the Bible, or the caribou, or the shedu, are not the cute little babies that we see in Greek and Roman art. They are actually the cherub, which were the 4 animals in one, which were the lion, which was the animal's body, the bull horns and the bull hooves, or the feet, the soul, and the wings of the eagle, and of course the head of the human, which is nothing more than the symbol of the zodiac, the symbol of the 4 cardinal direction, or the animals of the 4 houses of the crossed zodiac. And like I said before, the cross is the symbol of God, which is Saturn L,
the sole of their
the
feet
God
was
of
like
the
the
Bible.
sole of the foot of a calf.
And the sole of their feet was like the sole of the foot, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of the foot of a calf.
And notice they tell you the soul of the creature, or the angel, the Angavel, is that of the calf, which is the bull god of the Bible, which is God. So of course the angel has the soul of a calf. I mean, why do you think all angels are related to the days of the week, the 7 days of the week? Because it represents the 7 planets, or the 7 Elohim, the 7 gods. And this is exactly why the angels have the word El in it. And of course the word angel in Paleo-Hebrew has the pictograph of the bull, as well as the walking cane, or the bull penis of El. And the Hebrew letter for K, or the Kaf, is the El even, the 11th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So an angel is simply a messenger of God, the bull god El, which is the Angus bull. And this is why we have a male man, or the Malach, the Hebrew Ma-El, and the Ankh, or the Ang of the bull. So now you see why this theology comes from the fire fertility of the Torah, the torch of the fire Toro bull, which is the Taurus bull, which, like I said before, is why we have the Tanakh, which is the Ankh of the bull. So we see the Ankh or the Ang of El in the word angel as well as messenger and as well as the Hebrew word malach. So now I will prove this even further and explain to you why an angel or an Ang of El is a messenger of God. Which brings us to the astronomical astronomy or the astronomer or the astrologist, which is actually astrotheology, which is the study of the stars or the heavens, which of course is the zodiac, the astrological houses that are owned by the Saturn god El. Which is why we have the Elohim, which are the gods, which actually are the planets. So when we want to know something about our life, like in romance or finance, what do? We go to a fortune teller, like the fortune teller here in Wizard of Oz, the Marvel. Which is why we are marveled by the magic, or we are astonished. And the word astonish comes from the word star, the Aster, or the Astaroth, the Ishtar, Ashtarte. So when we want to get a message, we go to an astrologist, one who studies the planets and the stars. And the word angle comes from the astrologist, who gives you an angle or a message from the gods, which are the planets. And depending where the planets are, they give you the message or the angle, which different angles will give you a different message. So the angel, who is simply a messenger of God, is really an angle, which gives the message from the gods, the planets. And why do you think we have the fallen angels, which are mentioned in the Bible? We have the 1/3 of the fallen, or the Nephilim, the fallen ones, who fall from grace, or who fall from heaven. So in the real world, there are no fallen angels. There are, however, what's known as a fallen angle. So you see, the 12 houses of the zodiac have 3 sections within inside of each house. So actually there are 36 sections in all, exactly like a roulette wheel. You see, the sun is known as Bel, which is the white light, the meaning behind the white ball, or the sun that is spun around and around and around the universe, or the astrological houses of the zodiac, which is the true meaning behind the roulette wheel. So like I said, in the real world there are no fallen angels. There are only a fallen angle, which comes from the astrological chart. You see, the last 1/3 of each house is known as a fallen angle. So when we look at the 12 houses, or the 36 quadrants, we realize that 1/3 of them have fallen, or are known as fallen angles, or fallen angels. So we see that the Bible is nothing more than the seasonal or the annual story of the annual wheel, or the annual time it takes for the sun, or should I say the earth, to revolve around the sun. So this is why we're talking about the degrees or the angles, because we are talking about the specific times and events during the cycle of the wheel or the annual year. I mean, how do you think we describe the zodiac wheel to somebody? Well, we tell them that there are animal houses, which is why we call it the zodiac, and there are 360 degrees or 36 quadrants, and there are 12 houses and each one is 30 degrees. This is exactly why we find that Jesus is born in a stable or a manger, and then at 12 years old he goes to the feast. And then the other time or age that we know about is when Jesus is 30, which is the 30 degrees. So when we're telling somebody about the zodiac, we tell them there are 12 houses with 30 degrees each, which is why the two main numbers of Jesus is 12 and 30. And this is why in Revelation 21:12 we read about the 12 gates and the 12 angels and the 12 tribes of Israel. And the reference to the 12 moons of the year or the zodiac is exactly why the Jewish high priest wears the template of the 12 sacred gems of the breastplate. And of course the angels have the wings or the symbol of the bull god Saturnel, which is the symbol for air, exactly like Enlil or El. So the father god Cronus or Saturnel, the harvest, corn, golden fertility god, is known as the golden one who makes the ring or the golden ring and the golden crown. And this is exactly why all angels have the halo of the golden ring or the golden crown. Which is why when you complete the 12 or when you graduate, you also wear the golden ring, which is just the golden ring of God's Son, making the cycle or the recycle of the annual year, the Ouroboros, the sacred circle of the goddess, which is why it's related to the goddess and the whole of the whore, which is why the horny horns of the circle of the whore is the same circle of the Horus or the sun. So this is why we see the bull god Dionysus leading what are known as the Horai or the Hora, which is the seasonal witches or the goddesses of time. And a new day really begins when the sun Ra rises or rises on the horizon, which is the Horus Ra eyes, which is why we have what is known as the Hora dance or the circle dance, which is a dance for completion of the cycle, like in 1 year, which is why they do the Hora dance on a birthday. So you see the word whore or Horus or the Hora is a word that is the meaning behind our word hour. And of course in ancient times the sun god rode the horse or a chariot across the sky, which is why the horse is related also to the Hora or the Horus. And that's why the word clock comes from the word Baal. And the horse also gives us our word unicorn, which of course comes from the corn fertility of the corn god. And of course the horny horn of the corn is why we are born. So the sun is the Horus that revolves and circles the zodiac, which is why we have the horoscope. And of course the Hora is also the meaning behind evilness of horror, which is why it's evil to be a whore, which of course is the horror of the bull or horrible. And of course the whore of the bull is why a female uses a vibrator or a dildo, which of course is the vibration of the bull, the vibrator, the Taurus bull, and that's why it stimulates the clitoris. And by the way, the horse that comes from the bull is also known as a colobus, as in the Kabbalah, which is why in the Clash of the Titans, the evil horned one is known as Calibus, or the Kali Bos, which is the bull. And of course, you know, the horse can also be found in the zodiac, which is known as the house of the Sagittarius, or the centaur. Half human, half horse. I mean, where do you think we get the word nightmare from? It's a horrible dream, or a bad nightmare, which of course comes from the white mare, which is the white horse.